And to the floor the spears will fall. I've been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my sword has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail, and no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of lies. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we decide? No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations, 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video stream, whether it is on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are joining us from. Good morning to you. It is Friday. It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday morning, and we are, of course, always very happy and grateful to be alive. Now, in studio with me, sitting somewhere in the corner hiding, is none other than my co-host, Mr. Roland Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan, and I really do hope that you had a really good night and having a wonderful Friday morning. As you said, it's a beautiful morning. It's the beginning of the weekend. It's a day that many workers look forward to because for many of them, they have had a really tough week. Lot they have accomplished, a lot that they attempted to accomplish, and Friday sometimes bring a sign of rest, a little relief. You can stay into the bed a little longer on Saturday morning, or probably go to the bed a little earlier. For others, it's a time for having a little weekend celebration. Despite the fact these days we have the curfew on, so maybe they can't go up too late, maybe up to 9:30, because by 10 everyone should be off the streets. Be that as it may, I really do hope that all of our listeners would have a tremendous Friday, a Friday in which they can do the things that they really want to get done, but at the same time, they can be safe, they can feel rather secure, and they can, reflect on what has happened for the week so far and look forward with hope and optimism for the week to come. So, good morning again. You're listening to Hard Talk.
All right. And I know that I promised the people yesterday that we were going to have the lead negotiator, on the government's lead negotiator, speaking with us today. Did I tell them if it was via telephone or not?
I don't know.
I can't remember. But he is going to be in studio with us actually this morning, Mr. Bola. And that is why Mr. Bola is sitting so far in the corner where you cannot see him. So don't think that he's hiding from you. It's just that he's, what we call it, making space.
We're catering so that our guests can be comfortable.
And that we can adhere to the 6 feet social distancing protocol as well. Right? And of course, we are going to be this morning, the topic of discussion again would be the request by government to the unions for a deferral on the 4% increase that they were scheduled to get starting at the end of this January. And as we said, a deferral doesn't mean that they're asking them to forego the payment whatsoever, but just to be patient, considering the situation, and to understand that government is unable at this time to meet its obligation. And the key phrase here is at this time. They're not saying that they're not going to pay it at all, that there will be no payment of this 4%, but they're asking that at this time that they be understanding with the government's plea, given the situation, because there's so much that needs to be done. And it's not just Grenada's economy, it is the economy of the world that is uncertain at this time. We are not sure what is going to happen. We are not sure how long COVID is going to be around for. We are not 100% sure of these things. So we have to be cautious in our spending. We have to be cautious in our foresight, in how we manage our economies. So considering all of these things, government is asking for that deferral to take place. And yesterday, Mr. Bola, I listened to a clip that came from the lead, I believe it was the leader of the main, oh Lord, it's just slipping me, the main union in St. Lucia. And he indicated that government in Grenada, he was speaking on the situation here, that they were not unreasonable in their ask. He thinks that it actually was a wonderful approach that they used instead of dictating that this is where we are and this is what we are and are not going to be able to do, they took to the membership and they asked them, and that's an important thing to note, Mr. Bowler, that they asked them, They could have simply said, you know what? We're not going to do this. And I'm looking for the clip now because I want to.
That's what I was hoping you can do. If you can find that clip and...
yes, I want to. I will play the clip and I have it right here somewhere. Let me see.
Please find it.
I do have it right here so that I can play it so that people can hear exactly what was said. Here we go. Let me see here.
You found it?
Oh, I did, and I'm here.
So just hold it.
I'll hold it because
right
I do hear our minister coming in.
As soon as we introduce our minister, I think we can start off by playing the clip so he can hear it as well.
Absolutely. So let me just take a short break, guys. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be back as we welcome our minister in studios as we speak about the current happenings amongst labor. We'll be right back,
From
guys.
person to person to the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact.
Government Information Service newsletter.
Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Hello, these are...
Hello, these are your government notices for today, Friday, January 22nd, 2021. I am Abigail McIntyre. The Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force advises the general public that the cancellation of theoretical driver's exams on January 5th and 19th, 2021 at the Grenada Treat Center was as a result of the implementation of the new public health COVID-19 regulations. However, authorization has been since granted to recommence theoretical exams, and as such, persons affected from the aforementioned period are now eligible to sit the exam today, Friday, 22nd January 2021. Registration for the examination commences at 7 a.m. at the Grenada Treat Center. In keeping with the public health guidelines, 20 persons would be permitted into the examination center at the following times: 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m. to 12 noon, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., and 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. The Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts, Fisheries and Cooperatives wishes to advise the general public that the Division of Cooperatives, previously located at the National Stadium, has been relocated to the third floor of the ministerial complex at the Botanical Gardens in St. George. Therefore, all correspondence to the Division of Cooperatives must be sent to the aforementioned address. The division can be contacted via telephone number 440-6917. The Ministry apologizes for any inconvenience caused and thanks the general public for their continued cooperation. Farmers interested in plants for the 2021 plant distribution season are advised to have their applications in no later than January 31st, 2021. Application forms can be collected at all district extension offices, the propagation stations, and the Ministry of Agriculture main office at the Ministerial Complex, Botanical Gardens. The cost of plants range from $1 EC to $5 EC dollars. The Marketing and National Importing Board has sent out its list of produce with special prices for this week. Available on special is pak choy, lettuce, tomato, Christophine, ripe banana, lemon, cabbage, orange, cherry tomato, civil orange, gospo, pumpkin, green banana, and grapefruit. Check out your nearest MNIB outlet to benefit from these reduced prices on local produce. The Government of the People's Republic of China, in collaboration with the Government of Grenada, is offering scholarships for persons to study in Chinese universities for undergraduate programs, master's programs, and doctoral programs in the academic year 2021 to 2022. For further information, please contact Scholarship Desk, Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development at telephone number 440-2737 or 417-9762 and via email hrd@moe.gov.gd. The deadline for applications is January 29th, 2021. And now for your government reminder. The nightly curfew in Grenada will continue. However, it will now go into effect from 10 p.m. nightly. The curfew will continue to be lifted at 5 a.m. daily. Government continues to encourage the population to follow the protocols, wash or sanitize hands frequently, maintain physical distance, and wear a mask at all times in public spaces. In addition to the extended hours for movement, Cabinet has also approved an increase in the number of persons allowed to attend weddings, funerals, and social gatherings. The permitted number is now 20. For any number exceeding that, permission must be sought and granted. The public is also advised that the ban on all commercial flights between Grenada and the United Kingdom will remain in effect until January 31st, 2021. And this has been your government notices for today. I am Abigail McIntyre saying thank you for listening, and we'll see you
Minister for Foreign Affairs, who is also the lead negotiator on the government's negotiating team as it relates to the 4% deferral issue or conversation with the unions, the Honorable Minister Oliver Joseph. Good morning, Minister Joseph, and how are you?
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners and viewers. I'm doing well, keeping safe, observing all the protocols.
All right, and since this is your first time here for the new year, and I think it's the first time I'm seeing you for the new year as well, of course we want to extend a happy new year, and we hope that this year is as prosperous as all of the other years were for you.
This year will be better than 2020.
Well, we all hope that.
It will be better than 2020, and I want to wish everyone a safe 2021.
All right, great. Now, right before you walked in, because yesterday we started the conversation surrounding government's request to the unions about the 4% deferral that they were expected to get, and which was negotiated and agreed upon this January. We were about to play a clip from the I think he's the president of the head union.
General Secretary.
Oh, General Secretary. There we go. Of the head union in St. Lucia. And he spoke yesterday on a news item as it related to this this request that the government of Grenada has made. And I'm going to take some time to play that, and then we can begin the discussion.
The best way to go in any circumstance. It's always good to let the other party know what your situation is, and I believe in with that posture, you could make a lot more progress than trying to demand a situation or to dictate to persons how they should act.
Notes to administrations past, future, and especially the present. The General Secretary of St. Lucia's largest public sector trade union offered this viewpoint in reaction to the latest developments in Grenada. An article in the Spice Isles Government Information Service newsletter stated that Honorable Oliver Joseph, head of the government's negotiating team, indicated their proposal for a deferral of payment of a 4% wage increase due to the public sector workers for 2021. Citing the uncertainty of the economic climate due to the COVID pandemic, Joseph sought the union's consideration of this proposal to prevent any further increases in recurrent expenditure. Oliver Joseph, who also serves as Grenada's Minister for Foreign Affairs, said the reality of the situation is that the government would have to find $13.2 million to fund this increase, which is currently impossible. From his vantage point, Claude Paul says the approach is reasonable.
The Minister, Oliver Joseph, appeared to have laid all the cards on the table. And I think that is a positive thing in terms of transparency. And so when he sought to explain the position, I cannot speak for the unions in Grenada, obviously, because I don't know if there's another side to the story. But what he said seems to be quite reasonable in the circumstances.
On the reason for the request for deferral, the GIS article stated that the Grenadian government has had to bear the brunt of COVID-19's impact on the Spice Isle, but took, quote, immediate emergency policy action to provide support to households and businesses, which involves significant unplanned expenditure, end quote. At the same time, it continues, government continued to protect its workforce from the loss of jobs and wage cuts while providing bailouts for others.
In the case of the TUF, who negotiates as an umbrella body on behalf of the CSA and the other affiliates, it was the CSA who had offered government the 1% to defer the 1% on the salaries up to September 2020. I think in the interim, government has come back to the TUF and has requested a further extension up to April 2022, which is the time when the 2% kicks in.
Paul disclosed that there is a request from government for deferral, but that has not yet been discussed at length with the CSA.
And I would expect that government, having appointed its negotiating team to deal with that specific issue, will equally put the cards on the table and let the unions know what the situation is. I think with transparency and consultation, it will lead to cooperation and collaboration.
All right, and we'll stop just about there because I think sufficient has been said in relation to that. And the thing I want to point out, the most important thing here is the word consideration. Consideration and understanding for the situation. He did mention that in St. Lucia, when they started feeling the blunt of the pandemic, they actually approached the government and asked for them to defer that 1% that they were expected to get as well. Minister, what is your comment and your feel on this?
Well, let me start by giving a background to this scenario. However, the regional clip that you just played from the General Secretary of the largest public sector union in St. Lucia says a lot about unions' approach to negotiation. He was very clear. He said he listened to what was said, the rationale that was given, and he thinks that the government of Grenada made a reasonable request from the union. That was basically his position. And as a trade unionist, and he has a lot of years in trade union in St. Lucia, I think he has really shown a different light on how unions should negotiate. You're in a pandemic, you're not in normal circumstances. Government revenues have been seriously impacted. And therefore, the thing about the regional trade union, when you listen to them, the main concern is job security for the workers, not fighting for government for increase in this time, but to ensure that they get job security. And this government have said clearly to the public sector union that none of your workers will be laid off. We could guarantee you that, but we cannot increase recurrent revenue. So briefly, how we got here In 2019, we negotiated a 3-year package of wage increases for public sector employees. So that is teachers, civil service, police, prison, nurses, all state employees. At the time we negotiated and agreed on the 12% for 3 years, the economy was performing well.
Right.
In fact, we had 6 years of continuous growth in GDP. We had a recurrent surplus averaging 4% of GDP. So we were in a strong financial position, and therefore we decided that the worker should benefit. And we agreed and signed, and the first 4% was paid in 2020. Don't forget that. It was paid in 2020. The increase was paid. What happened in 2020? The first quarter of 2020 figures, we exceeded the budgetary allocation in terms of revenue. By June, so the first quarter come, then we locked down, and by June, we collected 50% less revenue because we locked down.
Yeah.
Now, you have to understand, where is the government revenue coming from? So, because you have to see it in the whole context. Government collect its revenue from taxes and international trade at the border, and domestic taxes from inland revenue, income tax, and so on. That's where the revenue come from. So if 50% of your revenue comes from border taxes and you close down the border, well, that's obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
That you close down the main source of revenue. Then the hotel sector closed. St. George's University, that contributes 25% to GDP, closed. Where else the government will come from? And you have a pandemic, so you can get grants from traditional allies because they have to take care of their own citizens. The British government has just announced a decline in overseas assistance to deal with what is taking place with COVID-19 in the UK. So all countries are affected, and the focus is on saving lives. Yep. So all effort, the government had to. We did not budget for this expenditure. We didn't know COVID would come. So when COVID came, we have to find millions of dollars to deal with the situation, whereas at the same time you're collecting less. So the question is, how was the government able to do that?
Right.
Well, the government was able to have the resources because for the last 5 years we have put in place prudent financial management. We have put in place fiscal measures that allow us, the economy, to grow, and therefore we're able to save. And because we had that savings, we were able to continue paying salaries on time. Every month, $24 million.
Wow.
The government employees with 50% less. But we cannot continue in 2021 increasing recurrent expenditure. So the government has said to the union. Actually, the first decision that was taken by the cabinet when I had to meet with the unions was to forego the 4%.
Right.
So I went to the unions, presented all the facts, all the information, go through every tax type to show how they were performing and to show what the revenue situation is, and asked them to forego the 4%, the 13.2 million, to give government some fiscal space.
Right.
So if you forego it, we could have some fiscal space so that we could deal with the COVID situation, to have the money there. We did not get consensus from the union on that. So I reported back to cabinet. Cabinet then said to me, well, go back to the union and ask them to consider a deferral. So you did not forego it, you will defer it to a later date. So I went back to the union as the leader of the government negotiating team and said that because of the COVID situation and the revenue, they had the shortfall in revenue, government is asking that you consider a deferral. Now, the first question they asked, will defer to when? said, listen, because of the uncertainty of the situation, we cannot give a specific timeline.
Right.
Because we don't know when the hotels will reopen. We don't know when tourism will start coming back fully, as it was. We're not sure when SG will reopen. So there are too many factors there that we are uncertain about to give you a specific date. However, whenever the time comes where government revenues have been restored to its 2019 position, at that time you will get a retroactive payment.
Right.
Now, let me state, it is not in the interest of government to have to pay a back pay, because when you default, if we take 1 year to pay, so if we at the end of the year we didn't pay it, we have $13.2 million to pay in back pay. And then January 2022, we're getting 8% because you did not get the full. So we'll add it, and then you have 4% again in 22, so you get 8%. And then you have a retroactive payment again. It's going to cost the government a lot more than if you could pay it now.
Right.
So it is not in government's interest. The only reason this request is made is because of the fiscal situation where you have a deficit budget, where you are not collecting enough revenue to meet your recurrent expenditure. So to increase your recurrent expenditure means that you may have to borrow.
Right.
And if you're in business and you're borrowing to meet recurrent expenditure, sooner or later you'll have to close down, because you just dig in a deeper and deeper hole by paying recurrent expenditure. So the government cannot operate in that way to go and borrow money to meet recurrent expenditure. But we are hopeful that if the economy picks up sufficiently, that we could quickly address and settle this situation. So the conversation is really about a deferral to allow the economy to grow, to see the extent to which recurrent revenue could increase to meet the demand. And I think that is a reasonable request from the union. And
To the union, from the government.
Yeah, yes, the reasonable request. So we are looking forward that we'll have a understanding of the situation, and that we'll see the union agreeing to the deferral until we are able to meet our commitments.
Minister, if I may, just to the end of your statement, you said part of the reason, or the main reason for asking for the deferral is to allow the economy space to grow. Right? So, and there you had the other night on that program, the representative for the teachers union continue to belabor the point that government has forecast a 6% growth for 2021. I think I understand how that does not constitute, well, it's growth, but because we have, I think, a 12% reduction or deficit this year, that 6% doesn't really take us out of the woods. But can you explain in layman terms so that the ordinary mind who is a little confused about that, because he was making the point, oh, well, government said they want the economy to grow, but there is a focus for 6% growth in 2021.
Well, growth in GDP is different from the growth in revenues and meeting recurrent expenditure. Now, you have negative 12% in 2020. If you get a positive 6%, you still is not out yet in a positive situation. Mm-hmm. You grow the economy by 6%, but it's where you coming from? You're coming from a negative 12%. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the person making the statement clearly understands. He's taking it to mean that government will have a saying that they're having a 6% growth above the minus 12. But it's not that. It's a 6% growth that is projected instead of the decline. You see, in economics, you say negative growth, and those confuse people. Yes. They say, well, how you could have negative growth if you're growing, But no, you had negative growth, like what we witnessed in 2020. We witnessed negative growth
by 12%.
By 12%, and we say we're going to do a positive 6% this year. But what we had to look at in terms of getting to meet the recurrent expenditure is the growth in revenue. You see, from growth in the taxes, the VAT, income tax, corporate tax, and these taxes that we use to meet recurrent expenditure, that is where the growth have to take place on the revenue side. That is because that is how we meet our recurrent expenditure each month.
Yes.
We'll collect the taxes, and if businesses are closed, so less workers employed, therefore you collect less in income tax. You collect less VAT because you have less business activity.
And less consumption.
And less consumption because VAT is a tax on consumption. And so what we are hoping is that we'll see a restoration of business activities. And in this year's budget, we have the largest public sector investment program ever on the capital side. And that is where the growth in GDP will come. Because when you spend money to implement projects, you create jobs. When you create jobs, people have disposable income. When people get disposable income, they spend more. Government collect more taxes. And that is why we need to ensure a high rate of implementation of the PSIP project in particular, and construction in general, because we are seeing the construction sector picking up.
Right.
And once the construction sector continues to grow and jobs created, that is where the growth in the economy will come from. And so this year, as I said, the largest public sector investment program.
Right.
Just before you, just to follow up on the line of thought, because it's quite interesting that the minister would highlight construction, because it was one of those areas listed along with agriculture, wholesale and resale, transportation, and so all linking to construction, where they would see the major growth in the economy coming through. But you mentioned taxes, and I would know, and I think most civil-minded individuals will know, that's the main source of government revenue. And while we are looking at collecting more, there have not been any new tax type introduced, neither have there been an increase in the rate of any of the taxes that is presently on the books. So, Minister, how does government intend to get more?
Well, I said, government intends to get more in two ways: greater efficiency in tax collection and improvement and increase in economic activities from the business community. So we hope that gradually we can see the opening up of more hotels, so more people returning to work. You have some big construction projects that must take place in this year. So when people go out to work, government will collect more in taxes because people will spend more. So that is where the government is hoping that without increasing taxes, that you will have increased economic activities, and increased economic activities will lead to increased revenue collection. That is how we're looking at it.
We have a caller on the line. That is what I was indicating to earlier. So let's, yes, because I know the minister has to leave and I want him to at least be able to engage the public. So, hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah.
Your background is very, very noisy.
Okay.
Can you move
All right.
away from
well,
the
I'm
noise?
moving out from the background there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you again, Stacey, and to your host there. Good morning. And I hear you talk about the growth in the economy, the 6% where you're increasing revenue and income and the expenditure. To your host, I have a question for you. Whereas the airport and the port is not generating anything much, how is it possible that you and your government can generate increase on the economy side? How possible that happen? How can you explain to me that the government is doing so well that we don't have to borrow monies to pay salaries and you increasing more constructions and so forth, like road work and so forth. Can you tell me, please, how possible that is?
All right. Yes, caller, that's a good question, because if you said you're going to have a 6% growth, the question is, where would the growth come from? The Minister of Finance in his budget outlined key areas where the growth will come from. He said the growth will come from construction, from agriculture, the wholesale and retail sector, services, that is businesses that provide services. Now that is in the and transportation. So there is growth in the gross domestic product, everything that is produced within the economy in a given year. And as I mentioned, he announced the largest public sector investment program ever. That is to stimulate work growth in construction in the economy that will provide jobs. Because if you have jobs creating, and remember, 2 major hotels is down. The range one has already started. Mm-hmm. They're going to employ 200 people during construction. And Silver Sands will start the next hotel this year. And Kiwana Bay is has already started, in fact, the one below the road, the new one. And he just yesterday he said they have 150 people on site.
Wow.
So that is where it's going to come when you create all these jobs.
Right.
Jobs are in that area is what will stimulate the growth, because, okay, so construction start. All the businesses selling all the material is local, you know.
Yes. Right.
So they go and they purchase these businesses have to import more.
Have to bring in more.
Right.
But you know, there's a shortage of cement already.
And steel too sometimes.
Well, I'm talking cement right now. And I can say that Kenny's Trucking already called and complained to me that he cannot get cement for all the project he has.
No, but having said that, Minister, just Kenny's Trucking actually imports his own cement as well, because for a while now, apparently Trinidad Cement Limited or company or whatever they are called, I think there was some change in the name too, because the Mexican company has bought over. Kenny's Trucking actually brings in a different type of cement out of Turkey. I think there's a Belgian company that brings in too, and then you have the other hardware bringing in the one from Trinidad.
Well,
so
you have two agents bringing from Trinidad.
From Trinidad.
Yeah, Ramdani and Huggins.
Huggins.
They are the two agents. And he bringing but it's a different type of cement.
Yes.
He wants the Portland cement, and he can get it from extra regional sources.
Right. No, so I was just making the point to show that even though you have two different sources now supplying, there's still a shortage.
And tell me what other purpose cement have in this Tabora?
It's for building.
Of course.
And I was just going to show the link. That's why I think when the Minister of Finance highlighted the areas in which they will see the greatest growth, see how they link.
Yes.
Now, with an increase in construction, there must be an increase in importation of the materials, the steel, the cement, the lumber, the tools.
Yeah.
So that means taxes for government on the
course.
But they also said they will see an increase in wholesale and retail, because then now all of these people will be retailing more, and so you have VAT, which is the consumption tax. Increase in transportation, the truckers and to move the stuff from the pier to the warehouse, from the warehouse to the site where you're building, and increase in agriculture. Why? Because with more people working, the demand for food will become more. So I believe that...
Also in agriculture, what we're noticing now, which is a very, very good thing, because we've been speaking about the link between tourism and agriculture. We have seen the hotels now in Grenada contracting local farmers.
Yes.
Like Grenada. Do you know that they will give them $70,000 to them? And Silver Sand, direct contract to farmers to supply them with eggs. Listen, the worker in Sandal said, listen, Minister, if we have an average of 250 years, Imagine if one gets eat one egg. Like 250 eggs a day, you know?
Well,
You see?
I think they had given me, during the time I was Minister of Agriculture, they gave me a calculation, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was about almost 100 trees or something per day.
Per day, yes.
Because outside of doing omelets and whatever in the morning, they use it in salads, they use
All
it to
other
make
thing.
other things.
So we're talking about volume.
Yes.
Volume. Grenada was able to weather the storm because of COVID-19. They continue to supply. Right? The restaurants and the hotels and so on. So we've seen that link, direct link with agriculture and tourism. And that is working well for the farmers.
Okay. Now, Minister, you have to go back, of course, to the negotiating table with the unions, and we are hoping, of course, for understanding and consideration at that time. Now, one of the union leaders, that would be the president for Public Workers Union, she indicated that they also made some demands. They put some things on the table that they would like to see done, like regularization of contract workers and so on. Has the government sat and gone through what it would actually cost to, because I think it's important to put it in dollars and cents, what it would actually cost the government to do something like that, as opposed to the $1.1 million monthly addition to its salary and wage budget?
Well, you have other requests from GTAU, who represent a few workers in the public service, and Public Workers Union, saying that they're prepared to defer until the 1st of July and lay out a number of conditions in a letter. All the items they are now costed, because you've heard they say we did not get back to them as yet, and that's correct. And they will get a response very soon, because a lot of the demands that they are making, that is in order to agree to the deferral.
Right.
So and they're agreeing for only 6 months. It must be paid by the 1st of July. And the 6 months we didn't pay for must be paid with interest of 0.5. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then a list of other demands and outstanding things that have absolutely nothing to do with the request for the 4%, including repayment of the dock salaries, what they consider for the days they did not work.
Which is an item that is before the court.
Well, which is a matter before the court. And then using the term dock salary is not a correct term. Dock salary has a different meaning in trade union law.
Right.
What has happened there is that you withhold your labor, and the employer has a right to withhold your wages. I mean, which law in the world would say you have a right to strike and the employer can't do anything?
Right.
Well, you're looking for strike every month?
Right, and
But
that's why
they
the
weren't
unions...
even on strike, based on what I understand. It was something called rest and reflection.
Well, that is not in labor law, so they strike. They withhold your labor. What strike is withholding your labor.
Okay.
Right.
And you withhold your labor. That's how it's defined.
And that is one of the reasons why it's outlined that unions should have a strike fund.
Of course, TAU are giving TAU full credit. The brewery strike, 61 days. TAU had to raise money regionally and internationally to help pay the workers. I remember Moncton Cocoa Station. TAU called the workers there to take action. And they had the shop steward taking the name of every worker that did not report to work. And when the fortnight came, they paid them.
Wow.
I said, well, you could negotiate with management to see. They said, no, we call the workers. And under trade union law, that was Brother Chester Humphrey as President General.
Yes.
So we tell the workers not to go to work.
So we are responsible.
So we are responsible.
Yes.
We can tell management pay them.
Yeah.
And they had the money there to pay them on the fortnight.
Wow.
Yet, your public sector workers now striking. I think government should pay because it's government. So government should, the law says the employer, well, the government is the employer. So the law applies to employers.
Right.
And therefore, you did not work. The employer choose not to pay you in accordance with law. The matter went to the court, so we'll wait and hear what the court rule on this matter.
So for this one, I believe we can put that aside. That should not be mixed up. And I think I said to myself, because I couldn't understand how it becomes part now of this new scenario because of COVID, because of the pandemic, where the government is making a request to you to say, let's defer until a later date. And I think also that the issue of when the government, I said, and I listened to that program Beyond the Headlines, and the your second in command in the negotiating team,
P.S. Jones, yeah.
P.S. Jones, did say that the team has agreed and government has agreed that every quarter they would make available the information on revenue collection and expenditure to the unions so that they can see and assess for themselves whether or not government has reached a position now where they can make payment.
Well, in addition to that, I said to them, when we send you the information, you can get experts to help you analyze it if you think you...
Yes. You don't have to take government word.
Exactly. Don't take over. Get independent experts to review it for you.
Yes.
So that you make sure that we are transparent.
Right.
And we give you all the information on a quarterly basis.
All right. Now, Minister, I know you are short on time, but I do want to get this in there as we were speaking about the production of eggs and so on for the tourism sector. This morning, the leader of the... Poultry Association indicated that government is now importing chicken from Brazil and that they did not government did not consult with them because there is a glut on the market now. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, first of all, government do not import a single thing.
Right.
So I suppose when they say government importing it, they mean government allowing it to come in because government would import chicken.
Yes.
Now, so where do we import the chicken from? Or poultry? Brazil, major.
Yes.
We import a lot from Brazil. Brazil is a low-cost producer. They do massive in volume. The UK and the USA, that's where we import our chicken from. And Belize is a CARICOM member state. And as a CARICOM member state, once they satisfy SPS condition, that is sanitary and phytosanitary condition, we have no grounds of banning any poultry from Brazil.
Right.
What is happening is not because there is the input from Belize has caused a glut, because it's a very small amount. We have said, and there is a poultry policy, that we need to increase local production on the market so that we can displace the imports of poultry, which is at $35 million a year.
Wow.
So I know that 2 poultry plant is up, and therefore during this year we should see production of parts, chicken parts, being sold on the local market, fresh chicken parts. Because what we import is the frozen chicken parts, and we don't know how long it was frozen for. And we bring it into Grenada, and one household said to me, a chef in fact, said the only reason when we cook the imported chicken, it tastes so nice because we put a lot of seasoning in it.
They say we don't overcook it.
Yeah, we put a lot of seasoning.
Yeah.
Grenada, we like to cook with a lot of seasoning.
We do.
Yeah.
Because it's stored from Brazil, it goes to Miami, and it is in warehouses in Miami. And as the order come, they send it out. And so if you get fresh or chilled, fresh, local chicken, it's healthier, first of all. And we are certain of the quality because the local farmers are growing the chicken and producing it. So it is government's intention to see this year if we can increase local production. We give all the support to the farmers to ensure that we increase local production. So to say that we are bringing in or allowing poultry from Belize to come in without the government consulting, well, we never consulted, and when we give permission to bring in chicken from Brazil or the USA or the UK, I thought the issue that we'll be addressing is how soon we could see local production being increased. Yes,
that's one of the biggest concerns, though, with the local production. Even though it's on a small scale now, one of the biggest concerns that people have is the price of the local compared to what is being imported.
Well, the local, when you see the 10% local, I really whole chicken, because we have no processing plant.
Right.
But when we have the processing plant producing, and depending on the volume they produce it, I think we will see the price being competitive. And poultry is very price sensitive, you know.
Right.
If you go into the supermarket and they look at the poultry products there, and the chicken wings imported is 5 cents cheaper per pound, they will buy it. The health concerns are not in their mind at the time of shopping. What is in your mind? How much money you have?
How much mouth you have to feed at home.
Yes, and how that could stress, as you say.
Yeah. But there's a point you made, Minister, in reference to the poultry policy. And correct me if I'm wrong, or just elaborate a little bit. I think within that policy, there is, and maybe my thoughts are tied up, I think the boundary is something different, but there's an allocation based on the amount that we can produce locally. I think as it is now, 20% or 30% is earmarked already for the local market, and once they can feel that and continue to produce more, government will continue to reduce or seek to reduce the amount being imported by our importers.
Yes, okay. So, yes, no, let me explain that. So, our boundary, which is the maximum you could charge and inputs in the WTO rules,
right,
it was 30%. We went to the WTO members and renegotiated our boundary to 100%.
Yes, okay.
And what we said to the poultry, and that is in the poultry policy, if you move up to 40% of production, we can increase the rate, right? So you have the applied rate. That is the rate that you pay now, which is called the applied. And you have the bond. So you have a big space in between. So you pay now 25, 20, depending on the parts. So we could bring that to 50. And then as you continue to produce, if you could supply the market, we can apply a bond rate because you cannot ban the products. So we put the bond rate, which is the maximum rate of 100%.
100%.
So no one will bring in poultry and have to pay 100% in CET. Yeah?
You're right. Yeah, because it will become uncompetitive.
Of course.
Because your price, the imported price, will become higher because the rates of duty continue.
All Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad, all of them apply the bond rate.
Right.
All
because they have local production.
Because they have the self-sufficient.
Yes.
To bring in any poultry into these 3 member states I mentioned, if there is a shortage, they have to apply for a license to bring it in. And that is how government will consider waiving the bond rate and applying a lower rate. So I remember when I was in Keyville, there was a shortage of chicken wings. And when I asked the guy, well, yeah, all these parts and the chicken wings is the one that's scarce. He said, well, that's the one people love the best, chicken wings. So they gave a license to bring in some container load of chicken wings. Because poultry in the Caribbean and not Grenada alone, is the most widely consumed meat. Because you could use it in so many different ways, I suppose. And it's easy to prepare. So the poultry consumption is very high. Guyana, Trinidad, Jamaica, these countries, and all the OECS. But Grenada, well, look at Grenada. Last year, 35 million.
In chicken.
Yes.
But also not just chicken. And this is going to take us into, because I just want to get the most out of you for the time that you are here. And it's going to take us into our food import bill. We spoke about this during the pandemic, and how high. I don't remember the exact figure for last year, but
we don't have the last year figure yet.
The year
2019's
figure.
The deficit, as we call it, trade deficit, was $1.05 billion food import. Not the food import, the total import.
Right.
It means that we imported $1.05 billion more than we exported.
Wow.
So in 2020, though, because of COVID and you couldn't import a lot, you will see it will drop.
Right.
It will drop because COVID had during the lockdown and so on. I think people couldn't import these things and they shift to local.
Right.
And so I'm anxiously looking for the figures for 2020.
Right.
But we're in January and they're working on it, so you would get it by the end of March.
Right. Now, the question here really is, with the now proposed buyback of Grenada, would we see...
It's not a proposal.
Well, the buyback is not proposed anymore because we bought it back. Now, would we, as Grenadians, have an opportunity to contribute to decreasing that, because that is a large amount for importation, and we're talking about the import and export of not just chicken itself, but chicken products and fish products and snacks for children, the biscuits and so on. That now opens up a larger market for us to be able to produce these things locally. And of course, in the event that there is another pandemic, we don't have to see a lot of shortages in the things that we use the most.
Well, electricity is one factor in production. So by itself, we will need to have other measures in place to attract foreign investment into the manufacturing sector. We have to start out by using what we produce locally, using local inputs. You see how the chocolate has grown now?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good area where we use our local cocoa and grow and producing chocolate. We need to identify other products and see how we can add value into it. So with the acquisition of Grenlec, you will see a slight reduction in prices, not immediately, of course, because you have to introduce renewable energies in the market, and so far it's fossil fuel, and if the price of oil increases, then it will take some time. But overall, we think that now with the state asset, the policies to reduce gradually the price so that it will increase economic activities overall.
Right.
For the tourism sector, the room rate could come down because you have lower electricity bill. I recall going into hotels in Grenada and said, if you live in a room, please remember to turn off the AC.
Right.
Because at the end of the month, the electricity bill is so high. So when we see companies moving into renewables and cheaper rate of electricity, we could have cheaper room rate. So overall, it is a good thing for the economy.
Right, and I think it's more, we have to start pounding in more that it's going to be a gradual, more long-term benefit as opposed to a quick fix, because I think a lot of people are already thinking, well, since we have Grenlec back, we're gonna I'm gonna see a decrease in my bill almost immediately.
No, it wouldn't happen immediately. It wouldn't happen immediately, but that is the goal.
All right.
To get it down.
We have another call on the line. We'll take this last call because the minister does have to leave. He did indicate that he needs to attend another meeting. So we'll take this last call, Minister. Mr. Bola, I know you have a question, so just hold on tight to it. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Stacey. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Good morning.
Okay, and good morning to your host.
Good morning.
Hi. So I've been listening to the General Secretary of St. Lucia, Mr. Claude Paul, who applauded you on the 4% increased wage owed to the public servants. I would like for you to elaborate more on it for me, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That person probably joined a little late because we did speak about that earlier.
Yes, so I will reiterate that the request for the union is to consider a deferral of the 4% increase to a later date. That is the request for consideration. And Mr. Claude Paul was saying the minister outlined all the facts and he think it is a reasonable request. As a trade unionist, he think it's a reasonable request.
All right. Mr. Bola?
So quickly, and it's back to the negotiations, and as was said earlier on, now that you have the costing for the demands and so, I guess it would be back around the table again. With the unions to reconsider, looking for reconsideration, whether they will pull back and agree fully or not. And it just hit my mind recently. If going through the year, we get to July, as they said, and there is some light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. We're seeing increase in revenue intake and so, but not sufficiently to allow government to now tag on that 1.1 million per month on the wage bill. Could there be a consideration to say to the union, well, look, at this point where we are, we feel comfortable that we can now add on 2% of what we had promised you. And as things continue to improve, we'll look at another 2%, something like that nature. Is that in the mix at all?
Well, everything is in the mix, depending on the performance of the economy. As I indicated, it is not in government interest to have this drawn out, and therefore we wish that at the end of June we will be in a position where we could pay the money.
Right.
However, as I said, if it comes, we are not able to pay all, we could put on the table different ways of meeting the request. As I said, the PW Chow says they could defer until the 1st of July, right? So they give us 6 months. But is what is attached to it, you see.
Yes.
The list of conditions.
Because you're going to have to pay more at the end.
But will cost us more. So we will reply to the union because they have not yet officially responded because we're doing the calculation. But very soon, I will in fact, the coming week, they will get a response.
Okay.
And they had said also the same thing you were saying, that maybe you could consider 2%. Well, they had said 2% in January and 2% at the end of June. But that's still 4% for this year.
For the year.
So we tell you we cannot pay 4% for the year. The 2% in January and 2% in July is not giving us the space that is required, because we'll have to get 6.6 and then 6.6, to make it. So the main thing is monitoring the performance of revenue, how the revenue perform for the first 6 months to make a determination. So we will have a review.
And then the focus for the next 6 months?
Yeah, and then we will. Because we tell them quarterly, we'll give them. Yeah. So the first quarter, they will get it, they will see. At the end of June,
would be the second quarter.
Yes, the second quarter, and then we will look at all the numbers, all the figures, and see where we are. If the vaccine work, maybe that
possibly can help.
Can help because
I was about to make the point, Minister, that you probably can see the economy doing better for the first 6 months, but then something about COVID hits about the middle of the year again and bring everything back to a halt. So
it's
very liquid, very fluid. So one cannot make a total or prediction as to exactly.
That is why in my letter I said in my letter, given the uncertainties,
yes,
we cannot give you a specific time. There are so many variables there, and a lot of exogenous variables that we cannot predict.
Yeah.
So it's too hard to say that they will pay you in June or in October. We just can't, because it's too uncertain. This is a really different time, Different COVID. I mean, the union since 2013, every year we've been paying increase. Definitely. Every year. So it's not a government don't want to pay the increase.
They just can't.
We just can't because of COVID. I said to you, the first quarter, January to March of 2020, we exceeded the revenue collection, exceeded the budgeted amount. And so then in the next 3 months.
We were on course.
Of course.
Just at the figures from the first 3 months of 2020 to see an increase in what we did 2018, 2019.
Yes, we're on course, we're on track, Yes. And COVID just come.
Right.
Shut down. We had to shut down. We had to close down. Everything went right down.
Just lastly, Minister, because I know you have to run. A caller yesterday indicated to us that, oh yes, it might be reasonable and understanding for what government is asking the union, but you want to know if it is fair. And I know we tried by saying we can only judge if something is fair, because that is very relative to every situation. Right. So what is fair in one circumstance or one situation may not be fair in another.
Right.
So,
no, will you answer the question? There's the answer. It's not an issue of whether it's fair. When you have to make decisions, and that's what leadership about. Leadership is about exercising some judgment.
Yes.
And that is how you judge leaders, And leadership is about exercising some judgment. And this situation is one of an economic nature and how you allocate your scarce resources. Yes. Because government is not only in office just to serve public workers. What about all the other people in the country?
Yeah.
What happened to all the other programs? What happened to the social safety nets, which the Conference of Churches have asked us to make sure that we maintain? that we do not touch these people. And the churches have said to us, make sure in anything you do, the vulnerable people are not affected. That is what they have said to us, Keep managing the economy in such a way that you do not have vulnerable people in a worst of position in order to take care of an next sector. So government is different for everybody, for the whole economy. You see, sometimes I get the impression that from the workers, that once we get what we want, that is what is important to us. Give us what we want.
Well, it's important to them, but not
to them,
to the entire
but
country.
And then the government must make that determination. So the government will say, they're saying, well, okay, well, it's only 1.1 or 1.2 when you add the NIS amount. What is that? Well, if we add that every month, then we have to cut it back from some other areas, because where would we get it? Because we tell you we have reduced revenue. So how we will this 1.2? That means we have to cut. We can't give no debushing program work this year. We have to cut out the public assistance because we have to get it from somewhere in the recurrent side. It cannot come from the capital side. So when you say give us with 13.2 million this year, it means we have to take it out from somewhere else. Yeah. That is as simple as it is.
Get rid of the pit latrine eradication program.
And get rid of the money.
Yes.
You're spending too much money, they get rid and give us the money.
And then the same people complain that young people have nothing to do.
Exactly.
The government has no program for them. So there's no help for them.
So when you in government, you listen to everybody, and at the end of the day, you make decision to the best interest of all. That is how you run the government. The main aim of government is to lift the standard of living of its people.
Yeah.
So, and we have said education is the best way to take you out of poverty. And we introduce the bathroom and toilet program. That is one of that's the program I'm getting the most praise for now. We have a $5 million allocation. Now, if you say give you million, we have to take out $1 million from it,
More than one.
Well, no, I'm saying they want 1.2 a month, so we have to take out $1 million from there. Right. Take out $1 million from the tuition fees we helping poor people, children with it. Right. And take out $1 million there from the public assistance. That's how we're going to get it, because we do not have additional sources coming in.
So it's the same stream of water.
Yes.
It's just that you give less bucket to another area.
Of course. That is how government allocates its resources. And that is how the population judge the government, by how it allocates its resources. Every budget you go show on one response, and you know that very well better than me. Agriculture was not given enough money every year. But that is happening since I go to school.
Yes.
I'm hearing that. The agriculture is not getting enough money. Well, if we collect more revenue, we could allocate more to agriculture and less to certain areas. And that is the balancing act. And that is how government operates in the interest of the people of Grenada.
Okay,
all right, what a way to close. Well, Minister, we are going to let you go on your way because you are over the time that you said you were expected to leave for. But we thank you so much for coming and share all of that information with us. And we hope that things work out for, not in government's favor, because when this works out, it's not going to be in government's favor, but would be in the favor of the people of Grenada.
Yes.
All right. So, guys, we're going to take a short break and so that the minister can depart. And then we will be right back with you.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Hello, these are your government notices for today, Friday, January 22nd, 2021. I am Abigail McIntyre. The Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force advises the general public that the cancellation of theoretical driver's exams on January 5th and 19th, 2021 at the Grenada Trade Center was as a result of the implementation of the new public health COVID-19 regulations. However, authorization has been since granted to recommence theoretical exams, and as such, persons affected from the aforementioned period are now eligible to sit the exam today, Friday, 22nd January 2021. Registration for the examination commences at 7 a.m. at the Grenada Trade Center. In keeping with the public health guidelines, 20 persons would be permitted into the examination center at the following times: 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m. to 12 noon, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., and 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. The Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts, Fisheries and Cooperatives wishes to advise the general public that the Division of Cooperatives, previously located at the National Stadium, has been relocated to the third floor of the ministerial complex at the Botanical Gardens in St. George. Therefore, all correspondence to the Division of Cooperatives must be sent to the aforementioned address. The division can be contacted via telephone number 440-6917. The ministry apologizes for any inconvenience caused and thanks the general public for their continued cooperation. Farmers interested in plants for the 2021 plant distribution season are advised to have their applications in no later than January 31st, 2021. Application forms can be collected at all district extension offices, the propagation stations, and the Ministry of Agriculture main office at the Ministerial Complex, Botanical Gardens. The cost of plants range from $1 EC to $5 EC dollars. The Marketing and National Importing Board has sent out its list of produce with special prices for this week. Available on special is pak choy, lettuce, tomato, Christophine, ripe banana, lemon, cabbage, orange, cherry tomato, civil orange, gospo, pumpkin, green banana, and grapefruit. Check out your nearest MNIB outlet to benefit from these reduced prices on local produce. The Government of the People's Republic of China, in collaboration with the Government of Grenada, is offering scholarships for persons to study in Chinese universities for undergraduate programs, master's programs, and doctoral programs in the academic year 2021 to 2022. For further information, please contact Scholarship Desk, Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development at telephone number 440-2737 or 417-9762 and via email hrd@moe.gov.gd. The deadline for applications is January 29th, 2021. And now for your government reminder. The nightly curfew in Grenada will continue. However, it will now go into effect from 10 p.m. nightly. The curfew will continue to be lifted at 5 a.m. daily. Government continues to encourage the population to follow the protocols, wash or sanitize hands frequently, maintain physical distance, and wear a mask at all times in public spaces. In addition to the extended hours for movement, Cabinet has also approved an increase in the number of persons allowed to attend weddings, funerals, and social gatherings. The permitted number is now 20. For any number exceeding that, permission must be sought and granted. The public is also advised that the ban on all commercial flights between Grenada and the United Kingdom will remain in effect until January 31st.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
All right, guys, and we are back, and there you have it. We just concluded an interview with the Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Minister Oliver Joseph, who came in his capacity as the lead negotiator on the government side of the table, discussing the request by government for a deferral of the 4% salary increase that was expected for public servants this month. Very interesting interview, Mr. Bola. I must say we did gather quite a bit of information. I really hoped that he would have said more concerning the demands made by the unions, but one of which he mentioned I thought was a bit ridiculous, for lack of a better word, in terms of them agreeing on the 4%, but when it is time for them to receive it, they wanted to put an interest of 0.5%. I mean, government is asking you, when you look at it, it really is ridiculous. Government is asking you to defer because they cannot see themselves expending that amount of revenue for that time. And then you're saying to them, well, go ahead and do it, but when you give us more.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with you on this one.
Why not?
That it is a ridiculous request. I mean, like I said yesterday, and I want to repeat that, the union's responsibility is to seek the interest of its workforce, its constituents, as we call it. And of course, in whatever negotiations they are in, whether it is for salary increase or deferral or for back pay, as we call it, or pay in lieu of a period that it wasn't done, they would want to, I believe, seek to get the best and the most for their clientele. And they are saying to government, well, if you are seeking that we defer, you're seeking a deferral of something that we are supposed to receive, something that was signed to, something that was agreed upon. And yes, while we understand that your reasoning behind it, your reason for asking is due to COVID and the uncertainty of your resources to be collected and so forth, when you're going to give that to us, we would want to ensure that you give it to us with a little more than we were supposed to get. So, in other words, you're saying put on an interest rate on it for the period in which we didn't get it. Now, it is up to government now and the negotiators and the negotiating skills to say to the union that, we think we see where you're coming from. And these are my words now, not what they would say. I guess they are intelligent enough. The Honorable Oliver Joseph is well versed in issues of negotiating. He has been a trade unionist himself in an earlier time in his life. And so he understands, I believe, what the expectations of the unions and the workforce is. And he also now plays a role, not just only as a government minister now, but prior to being a government minister, he served at the highest level in the public service as a prominent secretary. So he understands policy and he understands implementation of policy. So I think he is well fitted, to do what he's doing. So it is about negotiating skills. It's about the ability to bring forward the points of concern. It is about being able to convince, one side or the next, what will be best, not just only in the short run, but in the long term, and how, by deferring now, the workforce and the Grenadian families can benefit down the line. Because as he mentioned, one of the guarantees that the government gave to the unions is that they will do everything within their power to ensure that there is no loss of jobs or livelihoods. Yeah. And I think, to me, that is a big takeaway. Yeah. As a trade unionist, as a worker, while it is important, and I do not want to trivialize the fact that my 4% increase is important to me because it puts me in a position of greater strength financially.
Right.
I would now have greater income, more disposable income. I can probably now start doing or working on a project which I have been planning for the last 5 years. I now see an extra $100 or $50 or $200, whatever your 4% is going to yield for you at the end of the month, which I now can put forward to remodeling my kitchen or adding a room for my daughter that is getting big, whatever it is that public servant may have planned, right? So I don't want to trivialize the fact that the 4% is important and the increase in salary is important. But the times we are living in, the challenges that are being faced by governments the world over, I would believe that what is of critical importance now and interest to both unions, or should be of interest to both union and the workforce, is ensuring job security.
Yeah.
Yes, making sure that in these challenging times, more people do not fall out of the workforce.
Yeah.
That whom the government is responsible for employing, that they remain employed.
Right.
And in some ways, try to see how much more they can employ, whether directly through government or through initiatives that they take with private sector individuals.
Right. We have a call on the line. Let's take the call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are everything?
Very well for the time being, sir.
Mr. Bulla, you know something that I'm looking at the situation there? You say love conquers everything.
Yes. And,
you know, like if you negotiate it in love, there's nothing that will stop the both sides from coming into an agreement.
Yeah.
Right? But when you see you negotiate, one side negotiating care and love for other people, one side only negotiating love for the client, you have an obstacle there.
Mm-hmm.
So even some of the workers, the teachers, also every who employ with the government employee, they have some aunts, uncles that receive attention from the government. They have some family that are home unemployed, and they receive the $200 from the government. And I see what the Bible said: better love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And if I get in 2% or 4%, and expect for something that somebody used to get something from government, and that will stop them from getting it, I prefer not to get it. Because you know sometimes we work in, right? We know when day we get no salary. But asking for the 4%, we're not saying that government never say you will not get it. Well, at the time, if they go to give that, some people will have to forget for some people, which I feel is unfair. And they will say every hungry mouth has to be fed. And the employee of government is them who work in government, them who don't work in is an employee of the government, because the government has to still reach out and assist them. So I want to say to the public servant, negotiating love and care for your neighbor, and see definitely if my 4% get my 4%, what will hinder someone from not getting something. If I did the best thing to put it on hold until the government is able to give you the 4%. Right? You should think about yourself, but think about others. Because we always say Grenada is a Christian country. I have Grenada is a Christian country. The most important thing God said in His word, we love He and to love He alone and to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And we say we love God and we hate our neighbor, the truth is not in us. We don't love God. Because remember God said, when I was hungry, you did not give anything. When I was thirsty, you did not give me anything to quench my thirst. When I was in prison, you did not visit me. When I was naked, you did not clothe me. What is told? I'm going to say, God, when was this? And so whatsoever you did unto the least, you did unto me. Right? And because one of the Christian life is not speaking the word of God, but putting the word of God into action. The word of God that we are putting in action, because when God spoke His word, He not only speak and be there, but it shows how we have to live the Christian life. We have to love one another. Right? I will say we love God, we shouldn't want something and don't want the others to get. We should everybody should be able to get something. As to Mr. Uncle, Mr. Bola, you all have one to come this year.
Well, thank you so very much, and thank you for your biblical perspective on the whole issue.
Yeah.
Loving thy neighbor as thyself.
Loving thy neighbor as thyself. Yes. Guys, we're going to just take a few more calls because we don't have much time, so that you can involve yourself in the conversation. Let us know what you understand by what the minister has said and what your thoughts are on the situation. The number to call is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101, and you can send us a WhatsApp message or give us a call on WhatsApp as well at 440-7377. So there was a lot to ponder on, a lot to think about, a lot was said. Let us know what you think. We have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan. And
Hi,
good morning to Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, sir.
Mr. Bola, I have a question for you, sir. And I'm upfront of saying you can choose to answer or you can answer in the most diplomatic of terms. And the question is this. Has the chicken come home to roost for Brother Ralph Gonzalez? Thank you. I'm going to listen to your comments.
I laugh because the question is not funny, That's not why I laugh.
It's the way.
And I just, the way in which the question was posed. And of course, brother, I will answer you by saying, I'm not sure if the chicken has come home to roost for Brother Ralph. I really hope not, for the benefit of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What I do hope, though, is that Brother Ralph and the team that is in leadership position in St. Vincent come to the realization or recognizes, even though it's a little late, but they said also it's better late than never, that COVID-19 is no respect of anyone, that a pandemic is not a joke issue, that real leadership is not being afraid to take decision, even if it means that sometimes, as good as the decision may be, it may be unpopular, or some people may consider you to be a coward. The fact is, and I think the Honorable Minister said it best this morning, is about taking prudent decision, but those decisions have to be in a timely manner, and must be a decision that the outcomes that you get should be beneficial to the majority. Correct. Because sometimes you can take good decisions, but who benefits is only a few. Right? But you want to make sure that the decisions that you take, they are timely, they are as burdenless as possibly can be to the people, and at the same time that the results that would be inherited from it is results that would be shared and would be appreciated by the majority of the people in the country. Because sometimes we do things thinking only of one sector. As we've said yesterday, the unions only have one section of people to look at, the people who they fight for. The government has the entire country to look after. And the minister said so moments ago, that the whole country has to be taken into consideration when government has to make a decision. So whether it's a decision to build a road, or to increase the numbers of beds in the hospital, or a decision to pay 4% or not, or a decision to give scholarship or not, whatever it is, government has to take the whole picture into focus to determine whether or not, by making that decision, am I just going to satisfy a few, or would it satisfy the majority?
And we have to hope for our sakes as well that they definitely do get a handle on this, and as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Because the effects of it could be great and far-reaching.
And can spiral over into Grenada and its dependencies very easily. Because it's only yesterday evening, I think, I was discussing that issue with a couple. Last night, in fact, with a couple of my friends about 7 o'clock. I came from a constituency little meeting, a village meeting, and I stopped to get some bread by the bakery, and there were 2 guys there, and they was asking, my opinion on it, and I was saying, look, we have to be extra careful, even more careful now in Grenada, because the movement of what I just referred to as the boat people between St. Vincent, the Grenadines, and Carriacou, Petit Martinique, Union Island, all of these little islands, they just move across. That's the way of life. So even within a pandemic time, even though they are told, this is where we normally get our supplies from. This is the people whom we trade with. These are the people who we buy and sell with, and survival must continue. So we have to be even more careful now, and we really do hope for our sake and for their sake that we get a handle.
All right, let's take this last call for the morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my darling sister Duncan. Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Jacob.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm there.
All right.
What about my nice, handsome brother Mola by your side?
He can speak for himself.
Good morning, Miss Jacob, and how are you?
I'm fine. I'm handsome just like you.
Yes, man. I according to a friend of mine who is a man of words, that was a fantabulous answer. You're keeping well?
Yes, I'm doing well.
The new year has been good for you so far?
Yeah?
The new year has started well for you so far?
Yes, man.
By God's grace, you have health, you have strength, and you're taking it one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Well, what more can we ask for?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? That teacher's thing bring me right back. That teacher's thing bring me right back to Brother Blaze.
Yeah.
When the teachers and them, they think for the strike, think for the money.
Yeah.
And you say, well, I don't have the money. Well, the thing you give them, and you tell them, is the worst thing to get. It's from a dying house and the man, they don't know. God, this teacher thing, they going on long.
Okay.
Yes, this teacher thing, they going on long, man. Those teachers and them is something else.
Well, I think, Miss Jacob, what needs to happen at this point, we need to stop looking at it as a teacher's issue, because it really isn't just them. It's the whole public service,
It's the whole public service.
I think we're individualizing it a little bit too much, because it's not just the teachers, it's the entire public service, and I mean, we also need to be understanding of their plight as well in this whole situation. I think it calls for just everyone to really be understanding, because it is something that was promised to them, and we are asking of them to be considerate and understanding and patient, given the circumstances, but we in turn too must also be understanding of their plight as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't like that. They're not satisfied, man.
Well, we know it's tough for us to swallow, but it's also tough for them, and we are saying, understandingly, like I've said earlier on, that they may have plans, they may have things they have to do, but government don't have to look only at them. Government have a whole lot of other things to do. The whole country, and with COVID now, and the fact that, look, we have to start thinking about how we're getting vaccines. Are we going to buy it? Are we going to get it free? And even if we get it free, what is it we need to put in place? The storage, how do we implement it? What about the nurses and who has to go around and give the vaccine? They need to be paid for extra work. So there's a lot on government's hand to do, right? And so we are asking of everyone for their cooperation. We are asking everyone to become a little bit more understanding.
That's right.
Right, and government has promised, look, that as soon as things fall in place and the economy is doing better and Grenada is doing better, they will pay. So we plead and we pray. So when you pray tonight or later this evening, pray for them. Pray, ask God to touch their heart. Yes, not just the government, but also the workers. Yes, the civil servants, the teachers, the policemen. Yes, everybody.
Everybody. I just start to pray from 1 o'clock until about 3 o'clock.
Well, that's a lot of praying. That's a lot of praying. God bless your soul. You have energy.
Every day. everything.
Continue
God
to
has
do
given
it.
me the strength. I ask him for it, and he gives it me.
Continue to do it because we need it. We
Yeah,
all
we
need it.
really need it in truth.
And all of
We
us need to
it.
pray for ourselves, our neighbors, our countries, our family, and so,
everything.
yes, but we need to pray for each other as well.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
But Ms. Jacob, we are out of time, so we
Yes.
have to let you go.
God, you all have a wonderful
You
and a
too.
blessed weekend.
You as well, my dear. Enjoy yourself.
Everything in our Lord in Daddy hand.
Yes.
And when you all put it in Daddy hand, we don't have to take it back.
At all.
Put it in his hand.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
All right.
Take good
Bless
care.
you all and I love all you.
We love you too.
Plenty.
Okay. Bye-bye. Enjoy.
Bye,
Yeah.
darling.
And Mr. Bowler, quickly before we close, I do want to mention as well that not only is St. Vincent battling with COVID, but they're also battling with an outbreak of dengue as well.
Dengue,
I
yes.
think it was only yesterday or today that a 15-year-old asthmatic patient, a young lady in St. Vincent died from complications of dengue.
Oh my God.
You know, so
So
they
they have-
really have it going on.
And I haven't been in the know very recently with Soufrière. What is happening? The volcano, is it still?
It is, as far as we know, it's still erupting.
Okay.
And they're monitoring. They put out
Well,
reports every
I'm not
day.
sure if it's erupting, but it's because to erupt is to actually send up.
No. There's different types of eruptions. It's erupting, but in a different way. It's not an explosive.
Because when you
eruption.
say it's erupting, you give the impression that it.
No, it's erupting. There's magma flow coming out of it, so
Out
it's
of it.
erupting.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great.
There are different types of eruptions.
Yeah.
And I think what you're referring to is the explosive kind where magma and rocks.
Well,
and so
that's
on.
what I thought you were saying.
No. It's definitely erupting, but just not in the way that you expect to see it erupt.
It's erupting in the way I just erupt you. Quiet.
Quietly. Well, Mr. Bola, we do have to close, and we want to leave this note, especially with us Grenadians who, you've seen the comment, and I think that is what the caller was alluding to when he called the comments that were made by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent previously when we decided that we were going under curfew and lockdown and so on, and he didn't agree. And you know, it's important to note that every leader for every country must run the country in the way that they see fitting for their people.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But we must also remember not to rejoice in others' pain.
No, we shouldn't.
You know, not to rejoice in others' pain, because today it's St. Vincent, tomorrow it could be someone else. I learned this morning as well that Trinidad has reported for the first time someone with a strain of the
new
UK
strain, yes.
variant.
Yes, I heard
you know,
that since last
so
night.
it's closer than
Too
we
close
think.
for comfort.
Too close for comfort. You know, so we do have to be careful. We do have to be vigilant, not because we are not the people with the infection or with the spread or, you know, with the spike. It doesn't mean that we are in the clear, so we must just go about all willy-nilly. We still have active trade between Grenada and St. Vincent, Grenada and Trinidad, and so on. So we need to be ever more cautious because we still have contact. Any closing words?
Well, I just want to say to all of our listeners, thank you for listening today. To all of our callers, we appreciate your calling. For those who did not get through with a call, we are sorry, but time is always running up against us, and sometimes just when you have the most important things to discuss, the most important discussions, factual and you know, evidence-based, the time gets away even faster. So I want to wish everyone a really good weekend. I hope it will be productive. It will be well spent. But you need to remember safety at all times. Yes. Follow the protocols. Be very cautious about where you go, what you do, who you go with, you know, the crowd that you end up in, because we need to keep our distancing. We need not be in crowds of over 20 based on the regulations that are out. And let's continue to obey and follow. It is for our own best interest, brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
To enjoy your weekend, and hopefully, if we survive, we shall meet again on Monday, God's willing.
Absolutely.
Happy weekend to everyone.
Guys, we've come to the end of our program, and as we say here every day, in whatever you do and whatever you say, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you. We don't ever want to be talking about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the national report. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Education Minister advises that Grenada's 2035 strategic goals depend on government's ability to address the energy sector. We'll have details of this story and more in the national report. Welcome back. With the details of the news for Thursday, January 21st, 2021, I am Sharian Noel. Education Minister Honorable Emmeline Pear says a huge portion of the 2035 strategic goals and plans is hinged on the conversation and decisions government make now on the future of energy. Minister Pear said addressing the cost and availability of electricity to Grenadians now creates a better avenue for future investments and development. The Education Minister was at the time addressing colleagues during a recent meeting of the House of Representatives, where she gave support to government's pre-purchase of Grenlec shares in a $63 million settlement agreement with WRB Enterprises.
If we are not able to address this issue now, the 2035 plan that we speak about, forget it, because a lot of what is in it, we would never be able to achieve if we don't address the issue of high electricity rates in Grenada. This government must be credited for its foresight, its vision, and the boldness of putting people first again.
Minister Pear also addressed rumors that have been circulating on social media, citing the government's refusal to pay public officers 4% salary increase while being willing to pay $60 million to repurchase the shares in Grenlec. She said the two cannot be compared. Minister Pear added that the court's ruling does not take into account Grenada's capital and recurrent expenditure, but rather that a payment must be made.
Talking about recurrent and capital expenditures and what government could do and cannot do and can pay and cannot pay is one thing. But I expand my mind to think about what if government did not have the savings to meet that expenditure? What if, just what if, there was a situation, because we never asked for this, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we never asked for this. The court ruled that we had to meet this cost. We had to buy back the shares. It wasn't a request that the government went to make. So you can literally say that the government was forced into this situation. But just what if, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, that the government did not have the savings and was not in a position to easily and readily make that payment? And you know what I see? Greater disaster, more noise. Because when the court garnished the government accounts, they don't care about current and expenditures that relates to capital and recurrent. What they know is that the government has to pay.
Moving along, 60 HD 8-inch devices equipped with a screen protector and case were handed over from the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, NTRC, to the Grenada Community Development Agency, Grenada, on Thursday. Krista Burke-Medford is the administrator of the Universal Service Fund, a program of the NTRC which places emphasis on special interest groups, educational institutions, and others in the integration of ICT throughout Grenada. During the ceremony at the NTRC's headquarters on Morris Bishop Highway, she said that they are happy to support Grenada's Student Assistance Program, which provides support to low-income families.
These devices are funded by the NTRC under our Universal Service Fund program. This program was established in 2000 under the Telecommunications Act, with the primary goal to expand access to communications to our unserved and underserved areas. These 60 tablets, like many of our previous and ongoing projects, would further the goal of Universal Service Fund to expand access to telecommunications, targeting 60 households. We urge students who would be recipients of these devices to take care of these devices, recognizing the resources that was expended to provide the access to you such that you can benefit through access to your education. And also the ability to benefit from research depends on that device being in good working condition. We also encourage Grenada, and I know we already started that discussion with Grenada, to ensure that the framework is in place to provide support to ensure continuity and sustainability of the program.
Grenada, which has committed to the development of rural communities in Grenada for over 30 years, partnered with the NTRC, citing the importance of the utilization of technology in schools curriculum, especially as online learning has become the norm. Benny Langai, Deputy Secretary General of Grenada, was honored to receive the tablets on behalf of the organization.
I want to assure the NTRC that the tablets will be well utilized. And I say that out of the confidence of how children have been able to grasp what the program, embrace what the program offers, and really, really move up. Help to begin to change the socio-economic conditions of themselves, their households. Very important.
This is the National Report. The news continues after the break.
Are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go. There are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Welcome back. Young people in Grenada are being encouraged to participate in the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB and Regional Security System Asset Recovery Unit 2021 Creative Youth Competition. The competition, which focuses on art, is designed to allow students ages 13 to 19 within the 8 ECCB member countries to demonstrate their creativity, critical thinking, skills, and talents through various genres, including essay writing, poetry, songwriting, and art. This year, students who wish to participate in the art contest will be required to create a piece on one of the following focus areas. 1. Evolution of payment methods. How will the use of money transform in the future? 2. Women, the forgotten resource. Equal opportunities for women in the workplace and society, and the rise of domestic and social ills in the face of COVID-19. The entries will be judged in 2 categories, ages 13 to 16 and 17 to 19. Cash prizes, tokens, and trophies amounting to $26,000 will be awarded to the top 3 winners, their respective schools and teachers who mentor the students in the creation of their pieces. These submissions must be made by April 2nd, 2021. Entries must be submitted to the ECCB headquarters or banks, agency offices in the respective member countries. And finally in the news, the public is advised that the Department of Births, Deaths and Marriages will be closed tomorrow, Friday, 22nd January 2021. The closure is necessary to allow for the relocation of services to the original location, which is on the first floor of the ministerial complex, Sir Eric Gairy Botanical Gardens. The department is expected to resume normal business operations from 8 a.m. on Monday, January 25th. The management and staff of the Department of Births, Deaths and Marriages and the Ministry of Health thank the public for its cooperation and understanding and sincerely apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. And that story brings us to the end of the National Report for Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Now for a recap of the top story. Education Minister advises that Grenada's 2035 strategic goals depend on government's ability to address the energy sector. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I'm Sharian Noel, thanking you for viewing.